there are, by some estimates, several 100,000 pages materials relating to the official government investigation into the 1963 assassination of JFK. They've been under lock and key for decades now, with president after president ordering that material stay classified. President Biden is the latest, by the way, to do this. His administration late Friday night ordered a temporary, that's in quotes, I guess, temporary postponement of the release of JFK investigative materials.
Talking with a couple people about this, Larry Schnapf, environmental attorney out of New York, has led a years-long efforts to secure the release of JFK assassination files. And Mark Zaid, a national security and free speech attorney, representing Larry in the Freedom of Information lawsuit seeking the release of the assassination materials. Thanks to you both for being here. Larry, let's start with you. I guess you're probably getting used to this, right? We've had 10 presidents, I think, since Kennedy, and another one saying, well, not just yet, guys.
Yeah, I guess the headline is that we've now had 2 presidents make 3 temporary postponements of records, which kind of begs the question as to whether the executive branch is capable or willing to enforce the law. I think we're going to have to go back to Congress, because basically we're back to the circumstances that were in existence before the JFK Act was enacted, which was delays and obfuscation by the executive branch. The Congress passed the JFK Records Act because the existing Freedom of Information Act wasn't adequately allowing records to be released. We had an assassinations records review board that had the ability to override the security agencies when they wanted to postpone release of the records, but that body went out of existence in 1998. And so in 2017, that's the deadline that Congress had given for the release of the rest of the records. And President Trump and President Biden have postponed the records without complying with the law. The law requires that for there to be a postponement of a record, there has to be an identifiable harm that outweighs the public interest the identifiable harm involving national security that has to be identified on a document by document basis. And then they have to explain how that outweighs the public interest. And both President Trump and President Biden just made sweeping postponements without doing this analysis. So,
all right. So, Mark, do you have any theories about what the great sensitivity seems to be after all of these years? It sort of seems that anything of a sensitive nature in terms of intelligence gathering, that sort of thing, would have long ago come out. And if it didn't, by now, probably most of the people involved are long dead. So what's the big issue?
Well, there are several. And while without a doubt, 58 years later, and even a little bit more, because these are documents that are not necessarily specifically tied to November 22nd of 1963, but any assassination records is very broadly defined. So any activities the CIA was engaged in with Cuba after Fidel Castro took power would be deemed an assassination record. Some of these actually will deal with technical and human sources, actually some of whom are likely still alive, because if you were 25 years old in the Cuban embassy in Mexico City in 1963, you're only 83 now, or at least your family's alive. Some of these have to do with other technical mechanisms that may still exist, or have other types of information that pertain to collective activities that the government is involved with. Now, we don't think there's a smoking gun in these documents. I think everybody should be well aware of that. But every little bit of information gives us a clearer picture into the geopolitics of the day and the interagency politics of the day that does allow us to not only maybe decide what happened that day, but also decide what didn't happen that day.
You mentioned the idea of a smoking gun. For people who may be thinking that there is something buried in here, or if they're just, on a conspiracy side of things, this probably doesn't help that, right? Because you start to view it as successive administrations saying, yeah, we're going to put them out, and they say, oh, no, we're not. And then that just fuels everything as you move forward, because it looks like the government's hiding something or bungling the release each time it comes up to talk about it.
That is exactly right. And while this effort that we're engaged in has nothing to do with conspiracy theories, we just want the information out. We are friends with people who are extreme on the conspiracy side, extreme on the non-conspiracy side. And the key component that we join together in commonality is to get this information out. And when we have situations like this, where there is another delay, and in fact, in prior years, the executive branch has failed to comply with the statute as enacted by Congress, which required specificity as to why information was being withheld. All that does is contribute to a lack of trust in the US government historically. And it just creates a much worse problem. It's sad that if the government was just honest about a lot of this, it would actually diffuse a lot of the conspiracy theories. And that just doesn't deal with the Kennedy assassination. That's obviously on so many other topics too.
Larry, you've been at this for quite some time now. What's been sort of the driving factor for you?
Well, I much like Mark. I mean, I was 10 years old when the president was killed, and I, want to know what happened that day, and also, this is a piece of American history that is being kept from the American people. I mean, a few weeks ago, President Biden agreed to release records from 9/11, saying 20 years is enough. Well, this is 58 years at least. So what is it that they're, why are they trying to hide this? And what this lawsuit that we filed today is essentially asking for the underlying documents to the memos that where the agencies are explaining what they're trying to hide or what they're trying to keep postponed. So, I think historians try to put together information, a mosaic of information. And I think what we're going to get from these documents is to fill in some of the mosaic to see what was going on in those days. And, we might learn about some associations that some people had that we don't know now. And but I want the records to be released in my lifetime.
All right. Larry Schnapf, environmental attorney out of New York, has led a years-long effort to secure the release of these files. And then Mark Zaid, national security free speech attorney, representing Larry in that lawsuit. Thanks to you both for talking to us.